beyond respect of all of these people because I am who I am, you kind of understand what it is that you're asking for. I'm asking you to value who I am and value my experience. Basically is what you're asking when you ask for respect, right? And you get a base level of understanding. Okay, so what does that look like? You just want me to be sympathetic to your experience, but detach myself? You don't really need me to do anything for you? Or do you like respect with empathy? You know what I mean? Do you like respect where it's beyond just feeling for my experience, but you want me to connect with you so that I see myself in your experience, and I'm respecting you from that standpoint. Because if that's the kind of respect you want, you have to be open as a person to allow people to respect your experience. You get what I'm saying? Ha ha. If you want to be the kind of person who receives empathetic respect from people, which I think is more valuable than sympathetic respect, you want people to value your experience. You want them to see themselves in your experience. And that's why they have respect for you. Now, you don't have to be that. You can completely detach and just decide, you know what? I don't need people to respect me because they know my story. I need people to respect me because, you know what? I'm a person, you're a person, we're energies existing, whatever. You can feel detached from me. I don't need you to do anything for me. I just want a level of sympathetic respect. That's fine. Nothing wrong with it. But emotional mastery, right? Which is being able to tolerate the intensity of your own feelings so you can choose how you respond, is really more just about self-awareness, mindfulness, which it takes a level of inner dialogue to kind of have that, right? So if you're not someone who can check yourself or, have some self-talk, basically, then unfortunately, emotional mastery won't be something that you conquer. It takes a certain level of real accountability, right? If you've ever met someone, and we've talked about this previously, if you've ever met someone or gotten with someone who is sick and tired of being sick and tired versus someone who is sick and tired of living in the filth, those are two different things. So you have somebody who just wants to get out. I just want to get out of the flames. I'm not sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of being here. Right? There's one thing, and then there's the other level, which is I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. So what I want to do is practice a level of self-awareness. Doesn't mean I'm always going to get it right. It just means that I have a level of self-awareness. I have enough inner dialogue, enough self-talk to keep it a buck with myself. Right? Internal convos, everybody knows this. Internal convos can help you reduce negative thoughts so you can choose the most useful emotional responses. I mean, honestly, there are a lot of people who think that they can kind of take the emote out of responding and kind of deliver this androidian kind of delivery, which honestly, if that works for you, that's fine. It's whatever. I think for me, I am emotion. I don't want to be a type of person that only lives with a percentage of myself. It's like, picture yourself being your phone battery, right? You don't want your phone when it's at 40%. It can still work. It still does all the same shit it does at 100%. But don't you want to live life at 100%? You know what I mean? And you may never get there, but don't you want to at least try to be more than 50, 60, 70%? It takes a certain amount of percentage and you being plugged in, and this is a word, you being plugged in for you to do an update on your phone. You know what I mean? You can't be dying out here. You got to be plugged in and be at a certain percentage to take an update. And I think that unless you do the work, so to speak, you won't be able to have a personal update. Like, you just won't. Now, I ain't out here being no Instagram instructor. I would love a TED Talk, though. I would love a TED Talk. But I'm just saying, I just want us to be able to live our best life now because we homies. I just want us to be able to kind of live life at its most fruitful, you know, the kind of life that it just feels exhilarating. It almost feels like it's going to take your breath away because you're giving so much of yourself and it just feels amazing. That's the kind of life that's what's Wakanda like. Wakanda, I know it's like that. I do. Anyways, but I think one other thing that we have to kind of really, really be cognizant of is the lack of blame. And that's such a pivotal part of emotional mastery. I think even for yourself, I think blaming or this kind of like, I fucked up because this person disrespected me and I let someone have it because I felt disrespected, you know, kind of more where the ego becomes kind of bigger than anything else. And you're letting people know I'm not the one for the shits and giggles. I'm not the one that you fuck with. You know what I mean? But like, honestly, you really don't teach people respect in that way. You kind of just kind of get into this blame game where it's hard to really respond with true emotional mastery, where you kind of calm down for a minute and you have the ability to have a teaching moment with this person. You know what I mean? I believe that that's possible. I think blaming creates kind of this toxic, fearful culture where people are afraid to admit that they actually even made a mistake or offer suggestions, creating like this weird cycle of like people being defensive or self-protective, like just like a culture without mutual respect, basically. You know, a culture that kind of lacks personal accountability and personal responsibility. I think that like oftentimes why people can't have the kind of relationships that they may want is because instead of like, and this is something that I'm learning when it comes to relating with men, I guess, in a romantical kind of way, is that you have to be very aware of how you respond when someone does something to her. You know, like, are you going to let them have it? You going to teach them a fucking lesson like, or are you going to help them understand why that's not acceptable? You know, and why it won't be tolerated. You know, because I think that when you create fear for the truth to exist, but you then kind of live in this world where you always want the truth, you really don't. Because, like, think about it. Think about where you are right now. Just like, for real, if you're going to keep it a buck with yourself, keep it a buck. Think about where you are right now, right? Now, you know what you out here being like. You know what charge you on. Do you think that you would be offended if somebody you were talking to were to be like, truth be told, you actually have great potential, but you out here being basic for no reason other than the fact that you lazy? Most of you niggas would fucking bust a gasket. I'm sure it would be more about tact versus, tastelessness of saying that someone's lazy or getting into blaming, but kind of more of someone being able to give you the truth from their perspective without fear. And I think that the most successful relationships, that kind of communication exists. Where like, I don't have to worry about you kind of internalizing what I feel to be the truth. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. The only shit that everybody is not entitled to is their own fucking facts. That's not a thing. But everybody's entitled to their own opinion, even the ones that we fucking disagree with. But there has to be a world where, because I mean, let's be honest, even when you think about all the shit that's going on, the everything, people can't say that they don't like certain things without like getting chastised for it. And I honestly think that a world has to exist where, unfortunately, we are going to have differing opinions. Like, I say this all the time. I love Amanda Seales. I think that we have very different opinions on some things. I even love Charlemagne, but I think that we have some very differing opinions on some stuff. And I think some of his opinions may be a bit problematic. And I'm sure if he knew me, it would be vice versa. But I think I also respect his right to have his opinion. And I still love him as a personality. And I still love Amanda as a personality. I just don't agree with everything they say. And that doesn't make me say, oh, I hate them. You know, because I feel like that's a thing too. But okay. So we all know that when you're able to blame someone and render yourself blameless in any given situation, you think you are protecting yourself from acknowledging or even accepting the vulnerabilities or the imperfections or the mistakes that you might have or you might be going through. You know, I think it's very important that when you feel like getting into the blame game, you really gotta like take a moment and figure out what your part in it is. Just take a moment. Why is it okay for this person to disrespect you? Why is it okay for this person to like play this game with you? Like, what's your contribution? Because everybody can't always be doing things to you. You know what I mean? Like, come on. So, come on. You know what I mean? Come on. So I'm just saying, like, you know, where is the point where you say, you know what? I do feel like you've done something to offend me, but what kind of environment did I open up to even make it okay that you could test me in that way? You know, so perhaps I'm not being an effective enough communicator, not just in what I'm saying, but my behavior. Maybe my behavior is counterintuitive to what I'm saying. I'm saying give me respect, but I'm showing you that it's okay not to respect me. I've got to be able to have that emotional mastery, you know, to not victim blame, because I don't want to acknowledge that or accept that I might have some vulnerabilities about some things or some imperfections about some things. Everything can't just be happening to me. Some of this stuff I've got to be inviting in. I think where you can move from a place where it's less about who did something wrong or who is to blame, you can kind of get more to a place in finding solutions for problems. And even if there is no solution, I still think that there is a way for you to kind of agree to disagree and then keep it moving, right? And I think that this is kind of par for the course for just better communication. Because one thing I realize is people actually really do have problems talking to one another. And not just talking, but communicating, actual real dialogue, you know, and real, like, not walking away with the need to be right. Because that's definitely a struggle plate for me. Not only am I right, but I need you to acknowledge that I'm right. So like, let's get it on and popping. And that's a thing for me. And that's something that probably isn't going to work well in a relationship. Like, let's just call it spade a spade. It's probably not. Okay. I can't be right all the time. So that's probably going to have to be a thing that I work on. So here's what I figured out, right? This is where our focus should be. If you're ever in this space where you're like, okay, I've come to an impasse with someone because I feel disrespected or whatever the case is, I think it's important for you to kind of really get aside from the whole scenario and just figure out what happened. And know that everyone's perception in who's involved, everyone's perception of what happened is going to be just that, their perception, right? I think once you get from the place of, okay, so this happened, this is my perception of what's happening or what happened. Now it's like, okay, let's get into emotional mastery mode. What can be done differently? What was my role in all of this? How should I respond? How would I like somebody to respond if I were on the other end? And then I guess the third one, right, is kind of more just about accepting that everyone makes mistakes and using it as an opportunity to learn and not to point out signs of incompetence or failure or character flaws. And I think once you can move from there, you should get to a place where the communication becomes more effective. You know, And I think that once the communication becomes more effective, then the relationship by proxy